Now we will look at one sample t-test. We already have discussed about one sample z-test. Now we will look at one sample t-test. So for doing one sample t-test, you need to give another 0 here. So because this is the limitation of Microsoft Excel, that we cannot do one sample z or one sample t-test directly from this menu. That's why we will do this sort of things. So for doing this, you need to go to the t-test section. So in the t-test, you can see that assuming unequal variance or assuming equal variance. We will select assuming unequal variance and click OK. So here we will insert this. Here we will insert this one. Then you can see that in z-test we entered this variance value, but in t-test we do not need any variance, any population variance or standard deviation, because in t-test we assume that we do not know the population variance or it is unknown. So in hypothesized mean difference, yes, it is 3.5, it is the same, and we include the level and we should select the output range and click here. Then I think I should paste it here, then click OK. So you can see that we got our one sample t-test. This is the result. We do not need this one. So here you can see the mean of sample is 3.4 and variance from calculated from the mean, observation 15, a hypothesized mean difference 3.5, degrees of freedom 14, and t-state. Here you got the z-state, which is minus 2.32, and here you get as minus 0.95. so it is low. That means it indicates that maybe the null hypothesis do not reject or cannot be rejected, I think, because in this is the one-tailed test and this is the two-tailed test. So just let's start from the two-tailed. So here is the p-value. So you can see that p-value is greater than 0.05. So at the time the null hypothesis cannot be rejected because p-value is large. Here in one-tailed test also the p-value is large. So we can conclude that both in two-tailed and in one-tailed test, null hypothesis cannot be rejected. So if we consider the two-tailed test, so null hypothesis was mean equal to 3.5, population mean. So we do not reject this null hypothesis. That means maybe the population mean will be 3.5. This is based on this two-tailed test and p-value. So if you compare the critical value here is minus, as it is minus, that's why we are assuming it minus 2.1. So this is minus 0.95, which is not less than this, and critical value is less than this value. That means it is in the do not reject area, the t-state. If we draw the curve, it will, if you draw this critical value here, then your t value will be in the do not reject area. So this is the same interpretation in the one-tailed test. That means if you decide based on the p-value, it is sufficient. So we do not reject in two-tailed test. Also we do not reject null hypothesis in one-tailed test. That means as it is minus, so we see that the null hypothesis in left-tailed test is mean will be equal or greater than 3.5. So in t-test it is said that the mean maybe will be equal 3.5 or greater than 3.5. So this is the results of one sample t-test and this is the one sample z-test. We will see how to report the result.